we do have proposals to discuss today too. I do want to give Gary a chance to give some updates on the finance side first, and then we'll turn into that as well. Thank you all for being here. I promise.
All right. I kind of want to take just a couple steps back and just try to make sure that we all have a good understanding of where we are with the budget, how that works. And so first and foremost, yesterday, or I guess Tuesday night, our budget was posted, our draft budget for the board was posted online. And that's going to be presented to the board and likely approved by the board on Tuesday. So that has all of the revenues, all the spending, all the reasons why we do things. And so I want to go over just a couple of pieces of that. This is for and I think as you look at this document, I think it's important to just fundamentally know that the way our budget is put together, $1.7 billion, a lot of money. Nearly 80% of that goes directly to employees in this form of compensation. It goes to on top of that, contract service, all of the things that go on the personal side and making this work. And it's our district, right? Every one of us are part of that and gain and from that. So the budget is intentional. Every dollar is accounted for, every dollar is put in a specific group or bucket. So in the budget that's posted online, this document is just the strategic priorities of the budget. So when we create a budget, it's not just haphazardly done. It is done by many dozens of people, thousands of people work to put together the budget. And it's intentional, right? All of the money we spend is intentional, from the superintendent's office to the all the way down to all the staff, all of the schools participate in identifying what is the priorities of the district. But the reason and the way that we spend money is intentional, right? We have debt obligations, retirement payments, we pay taxes to the IRS, right, for our employees. Everything that is done is just intentional. So we did that at district, but it's important to know that there's a process for us to get this budget done, completed, in the hands of all of our constituents throughout the state or throughout the county. So that's the first thing. Next is and when we look at our budget, money comes, well, when you see this, I won't wait to get this on. First item, the first piece of this, the first graph, and we'll go down through the graphs, but the first graph shows that FEFP, the Florida Education Finance Program, this is the money that the state legislature appropriates for our school district. And what I really want to concentrate on is the numbers at the top of that graph. So if you go back to like the last 4 years, right, 770 million, 8, 5, 7, total money that the state legislature gives the school district. Now, part of that is because we have less students. Part of it is because they've changed the funding model over time. There's a variety of reasons for that. So 43-page document online that you can grab and get all the details of it. And if you ever have questions about it, I'm always around to ask questions. I talk a lot. And I work through this with lots of people. So I just want you to see that our actual next, where does that money come from? Most of the money that we get from the state legislature isn't given to us by the state, right? We get a portion, about a third of the money of FDFP funding directly from the state. The rest of it comes from us as constituents. Right? It comes from every property owner, every commercial entity throughout the district. And so that amount continues to increase. So this year, the one that we're just starting, Pinellas County residents are going to contribute nearly $1 billion to run the school district. The state will provide a couple $100 million, but the citizens of the county provide nearly $1 billion. How does that money come to us? It comes to us when you pay property taxes. You pay them in November and December. And so our fiscal year started on July 1st. Between July 1st and November, we don't get any money, right? The state gives us their little 1 monthly portion of their couple $100 million, but we operate on nearly $1.7 billion of money. That's our capital, that's our referendum, that's the portion that the local population. So what do we do as a school district between July and November? We borrow money, right? We don't have any other choice because we don't have a fund balance of, for example, different districts throughout the state may have much larger fund balances than us. And that's like a savings account. So they can weather the storm of property tax coming in late year because they dip in and then the property tax it builds that savings account back up. We don't have a savings account really, and we'll kind of see that. So what do? We borrow money. We pay about 3.5% interest, and this year we're going to borrow $245 million in order to get us to that first 6 months of the year. And so that just shows that because we have a low fund balance, we don't have that cushion, so we borrow money to make it up. I'm trying to just kind of get to the point that the fund balance impacts all of us, because as we borrow more money, we have to pay more interest, and that's just less money for the entire district. So it kind of all just fits together. It's like a puzzle. Next, I want to show something. When we talk about fund balance, it's not just a number. I mean, the state requires us to have a 3% fund balance. Otherwise, we would enter in what's called financial emergency. They have their own way of calculating what that percent is. Our school board has a policy that says we have 5% fund balance. There's a different way that we calculate that 5%. So as of the end of this year, we will be 3%. And we have been in the last 2 years, right at 5% margin. And for the school board, using capital funds, using other dollars, 5% requirement. But we are rated by bond rating agencies every year because we have we take out our $200 million tax anticipation note, which is a public bond. We have what's called we have the COPS bond, the COPS layout, which is or the COPS issuances, which is when we borrow money, essentially borrow money, and then use it to renovate a school. And we've done that in 2017 and 2021, most recently. We've done both for that. But when our rating is downgraded, or our credit rating goes down, just like in your house, if your credit rating goes down, it affects your ability to borrow. It affects our ability to borrow. This is the second time in 3 years, second time in 3 years that our rating cut by movies. And every time we get a little more interest on it becomes a little bit harder to have conversations about borrowing money because we end up having to pay a lot more interest over a lot longer period of time. So this is again public. I only took 2 pages of the entire guide, but again, just it's in the news. I want to look at in the back end area that's highlighted. And so it shows, and again, this is moving calculation of our fund balance, which is slightly different than how the state does it. And it's different than how the school board calculates the 5% for their policy. But we can see that over time, this has just been a continual decrease in the fund balance that the school district has. And so I think it's vital that the school district's finances, just about like you envision the finances of the budget of your household. As we have, we're not like a business where we go to, right? We are given paycheck by the state that develop on using their own criteria. We get those funds in, and then it's up to us on how we're going to spend it. There are certain things we have to do. We have to do. We have to do. But then at the end, we get to choose where the rest of those pieces go. And in the context of this discussion, it's almost like a child's allowance. They need money for the things that they're going to do, and we as parents or as the adults provide them the funds that they need to be able to live the things that they want to do. But when there isn't extra funds, we have to figure out ways of either reallocating components of the budget or figure out how to do without certain things. Maybe we decide that transportation isn't going to be as big of a part of our district, or we are going to make adjustments to the health insurance that we have, or we're going to make staffing adjustments. There are things that we have to do in the district to make have no to offer funds for day expenses other than through the tax anticipation note, which is really just it's a payday loan, right? That we are getting the money up front, but we have to make that payment later with interest. And so we have to figure out how to balance the budget. We're required. It's the law. All of our documents go to the state. They're reviewed by the Department of Education. They're reviewed by all the in the state legislature, and they make sure it balances. And so I think one of the things that we have to think about today and just in the future is where should those funds go? What should we use our money that isn't the 80% that's already allocated to compensation right now? What should we do with it? Is it there's priorities in here, right? It says that there may be district initiatives. We may have a textbook rollout that we have to do that costs us $14 or $15 million. And the compliance things that we have to do as far as athletics and being able to do the extra hard testing that we have to do now because of the state said we had to. It may be that we have to adopt other textbooks on top of our regular adoptions because they have to say a certain that they have to be certain. And so all those considerations are things that we have to deal with these budgets together. And compensation is certainly one of them. And it has its own line on the strategic priority. It's listed as number D. Right? It's listed on. We have to put it in perspective with all the other things that we're either legally or statutorily or otherwise required to do. So we're here to come to consensus on what we think was this one. Acknowledge that we're not in a good financial position, right? We can't be understating the position that there are districts, there are now 3 or 4 districts throughout the state that are in financial emergencies, mostly because of insurance is causing the biggest issue with those. But also remember, and we talked about it in the first session, that last year the state took $13 million from our budget that they had already allocated because they said they didn't have the right number of students, of the estimated students, and the survey counts, and they did that total. And so we didn't get funded $13 million. We want to spend that. We did. There's a certain number of staff, the projects that we had to spend that money. We didn't have, where does that come from? It comes from us trying to manage things when life insurance in your household. We had to reduce the food budget. We couldn't go out to eat as much, right? We had to maybe get rid of the second car. These are all big considerations, but there are things that you have to do when you're looking at a budget that has to be balanced. You have no ability to increase the top end, right? We are given an amount, and that is the only thing that. So, anyways, I just wanted to put that all out. I'm always, and I'll just say this, always here to answer questions outside about the budget, about property taxes, tax my goals. So,
Information, more questions. I don't think it's shocking, but I think it's important to see and also be able to, when asked, be able to share the same information it's looking at. I don't want to have to read all that. You're welcome to read it online. And it did just be posted. Last time we started this going on, had to publicize what a lot of securities working on it too. I think it's more. They're bond rating with question. So, but pass something out. Do you want to add one thing real quick?
So I just wanted to talk a little bit. I know in the past that we had talked about the TSIA funds. And this year we know that those funds are to be utilized and designated by the state for our classroom teachers 10 plus years, which is amazing. The TSIA, for those of you that may be newer to the table, and I was sharing with Mr. They're not new. And those funds have been here from the state since 2020. For those that have been around the table since 2020, you'll remember that those TSIA funds that were provided to us for those recurring dollars were really to work on getting that beginning teacher salary to that 47.5. And I know that this group works really hard to continue to look at that money to get our salaries up. And we've been fortunate to utilize other dollars when we shared that information to the states to show what our salaries look like as far as those beginning teacher salaries. So while our salary is close to that 47.5, that total salary that we have referendum has exceeded that amount. And so when we have been given those TSIA dollars each year since 2020, those dollars hadn't been solely provided to those beginning teachers. We've been able to utilize other funds to ensure that we're meeting the letter of the law. And if you, and I don't remember if we knew all the things last year. Last year we had to, it was specific that 2+ years. So we utilize those TSIA dollars that we provided last year that the state gives us above the FEFT so that we can not only raise those beginning teacher salaries, but the state also was looking at the veteran teachers and saying that those specific dollars were to be utilized for the 2+ years. Now, last year it wasn't classroom teachers only. They just said teachers with 2 or more years. And this is the first year that those additional dollars that they said were very much designated to really look at, because we know we've had that compression and we were doing more for those veteran teachers. So I just wanted to bring it to our attention that we've been utilizing all of those dollars, those ones that were specifically designated to raise those bottom teacher, the beginning teacher salaries. And because we're utilizing other funds, when we provide information to the state, when the state looks at our FTE, and you can look at our state averages at the same time, DOE, and you can look at our average teacher salaries, you can look at our average administrator salaries, nurses salaries, those are all in there in the DOE and the survey data. You will see that our average teacher salaries, where we're at, and what our beginning teachers are. One of the reasons why we come to this district to work is because of our salaries.
Okay. So what I just passed out the last document as well, that just Amy spoke to is that was just published by the DOE, and it's a good read. Actually, had a tab for every single group along the way too, but average instructional salary for analysts are recognized that excludes the referendum. So supplement the base salary, part of your FRS that's included in and noted that way by the state. We're pleased. We're pleased that we're an eighth in the state. I would say probably a little higher than that, considering a couple of those districts are kind of tiny and a little different. You know what I mean? Understand what I'm saying by that? And there's some very, very large districts that pay significantly less. And so we're very proud to have that. It's just more of a positive thing. We get a budget as positive as possible. That's as of last year. That's before any other additional revenues, before any other base allocation. So questions there, and if not, then I'm going to show you a couple proposals. Yes.
Whenever we look at these other amounts, other districts, do those districts also have referendums?
A lot of them do.
So then this salary that's on here, is that include their referendum?
Yes, yes.
Some are half mil, remember, and some are full, and some do some things where they have, here you'll say it better, other districts charge under like 1% for capital or something as well.
Impact
As well.
So just because of that.
Now, and I know that some districts have different ways of doing their referendum too. Like I know some of them have stuff where it's like, almost like stepped out, you know, like older, not older, but you know, like teachers with more experience.
Longevity.
More, you understand?
Longevity.
Yeah, it runs the gamut. Some are even, it just goes into operating accounts and it's just being used as the district feels like it should be. So some are more defined as far as what the use of it is, as far as it's defined, you know, just depends on what that is.
Yes.
Great question. But we're pleased. We want to continue to climb that up, right? So congratulations, Monroe, to your 800 teachers. And small district. So if you're comfortable with that, Tracy, I'm going to show you the proposals that we prepared for you. I'm going to show you the
Perfect.
questions.
No.
I like it.
It's the weeds.
Yeah, it's a weird. Want that one? So give people a minute to get the form done up, and I'll add some context to what's looking at. I want everybody to have. And for those that are new to the room, thanks. I love you guys before others I have. Thanks. It's all good to be here and to hear about what we've got going on. But for that reason, I'm not going to go back and roll through the previous sessions. We had an offer, you've given us an offer back as well. Last time I came, we intentionally brought the updated counts from the TSIA. We also wanted to take a look at the new denominator specifically to referendum. So before I go into the weeds with this, I just want to give you a little bit of orientation to it as well. We're asked to kind of separate out the referendum. You understand that. You want to look specifically at general operating TSIA.
That's actually, just so that you know, it's the alarm to take out the garbage.
Well, I think the proposals are really good. So,
Truck's coming here, catch a quick.
I know, like for when we leave the building over there, that I remember that one of us has to put out the
Got
garbage.
it, got it. So it's the work office, not the home. It's good to know. So the top where it says negotiated, let me just tell you the buckets of funds that we're offering and the funds that are already there. The two that are there are the TSIA and the additional offer from the general operating and district funds. Okay? And I'm going to go back to that. The middle, as you can see, is the referendum, and the bottom would just be combinations of each. You orient yourself going across, you'll see under base salary increase on option number 1, on option number 2, and on option number 3. I spoke with Tracy in advance just to say, are you okay with me leaving off percentages of minimum and maximum and getting down to dollar amounts? And that was what we agreed to, because it's one, it reads a little easier, but you can always put percents back on. I just think it gets a little muddy. We want to make sure we're as clear as possible. So in the top left, where it says underneath negotiated, same counts that we updated the last time we met. It's the same counts that we'll take a look at again right before we get ready for TSIA. So we're going to revisit one more time on September 1st. because that's the same day the state looks at the teacher leave money. Well, we haven't been given a date to make sure we use date certain for how to break apart the TSIA. We do know that if we use a date that they determine, we're more likely to be accurate. The counts haven't changed since then. You'll see on the option one, I'm going to go across and then down. What that is suggesting, I know that some people pull out a calculator, as they should, right? What that is suggesting is the dollar amount for the classroom teachers of 10 years or more, the 2,731 of them. Total cost for fringe is the same number we saw last time, $3.755 million. That comes out to, spread out over paychecks for that group of people, $1,124. That has potential to go up slightly. I said it before, I'll say it again in case you're new. When we recalculated September 1, if the 2,731 drops by 5 or 6, we're going to redistribute it, make that go up. I do not think the number of employees will go up by that point, depending if this go down a little bit, right? But the second column is for the 10-year teachers that do not qualify for that. We've already gone through the categories. We have it by job code. We scrutinize it. We feel really good about that. And that's 783. And so what we're asking or suggesting in option one, and if you want to know the total dollar amount, I will go back to you, Dan, because you raised a fantastic point last week that I took to heart and brought back to you. But Dan, last time, when we were looking at the base, we had offered initially 0.75%. We didn't say it's going to be X amount, which comes out to $406 per person to everybody. So everybody got something in addition to those that got the TSIA. And your point was well taken. But we have less people in that bucket now. Shouldn't that number go up? And we didn't recalculate that time because we were stuck on 0.75%, just like you communicated. So what I did is I took the number from before when there was more people in that bucket and went right back to that line. So I think the number you said is a couple 100,000 different, and it is, right? And if you take a look in those lines and you see underneath where it says total cost for fringe, you see 1,075,824. You add that to the one right below it, 1,892,899. That's that same 2.9 number that we were looking at before. You're like, why did it go down to 2.7 something? Is that we've just gone on a percent, it would have been 2.7 something there. And so those are the two numbers there. Those bottom two rows in option 1 or 2 or 3 truncate across to really help delineate out what our suggestion and our proposal is for the same amount of money. What we're proposing is to take out of our operating dollars, not REF, that's separate, not TSIA. TSIA was the raise the state, and Dina just explained how that works. This is your 1% per raise. We're telling you how you must allocate it. It must go to these people. We talked about that last time. But that 2.9, we looked at it and said, here's 3 different ways, because that's our offer of money today. Here's 3 different ways that we think we could split that up, and we're open to more suggestions if we get to that point. In option 1, the way we split that up was to say, what if you're a 10-year and you've been around, but you happen to be a media specialist now, and you were a classroom last year, or you're an ISD now and you don't qualify? We said one option might be to make sure that whatever we take out of general operating, maybe we give the exact same amount to those folks that are listed as non-classroom that are 10 or more, so that seemed a little fair for that group, but fair for one group might not be fair for another. Fair? And then take the remainder of that 2.9 million and spread it out evenly amongst the other folks that are not 10 year, which is 2,181.
And that intent is because the state recognized the veteran teachers, which we have heard.
Yeah, good point. With the way they set up the TSA.
Correct.
Gary, you were saying something second.
No, I was just go ahead.
Okay, so that would be $710 per person there. And then if you track down, and I know you wanted it frame different, so I did, but I still, look, it doesn't matter the option. We know at this time, based on these employee counts, every person is going to get an additional $1,824 added to their salary in referendum dollars that is part of FRS, that is going to roll forward, but referendum gets looked at every year. We talked about it may or may not go up, but I believe it's going to continue to go up, but at the same time, I'm an optimistic guy. And at the bottom, all it does is it just adds stuff up so you can see what total salary increase would be, whether it came out of the general operating, which I would call base, or the referendum, and the totals. And again, Tracy, to your point, I lost the percentages. I'm going to go quicker now because now you got And just,
And I would note as Mike continues to talk about this, and based on what we went through a little bit ago with the budget, we have a certain amount of money. That's what the district has to contribute to compensation. We go through the creation of the budget. It has to be balanced. We have to do certain things according to the state. And this is the funds that are available.
it's reference to the 2.9 when you put that together.
So can I ask something really quickly? So what I'm thinking that I'm hearing when I'm seeing this is that on some of these, like on the first offer, it looks like the TSIA funds go to 10+ year classroom teachers, but then am I right in saying that then the district is also matching that for teachers that are not in the classroom but have 10+ years of service?
As part of the district's offer,
Yes.
2.9 mil, and then the rest.
And then everyone else gets the 710, like everyone that is
0 to 9,
less than.
classroom, non-classroom, in your bargaining unit.
Okay, and then on the second one,
You can go there first. Just right?
Okay.
Okay, so option 2, to your point, I know you'll say it, but I'll say it and be clear. Another way to divide it, it's the same 2.9 million, it's just a matter how you want to break it out. We could decide if we decide on the dollar amount, that's obviously the bigger elephant in the room. We could take that 2.9 and just divide it evenly amongst everybody who didn't get TSIA. That's what the second option shows. And you can see the dollar amount goes from 710 up to 819 for those that are less than 10, go down a little bit because we're spreading out a larger pot of money amongst that group of people. And then track down the same way. I don't need to, but it adds up, right? Is that good? And then the third one, and I could have added it up there, but you'll see, it's another option with the same 2.9 million, right? It says we recognize the 10+ classroom is going to get 1,124. But what if we took the rest of the 2.9 and just broke it out evenly amongst everybody? The folks who got TSIA got a little bit more. Folks that are 10-year that weren't in the bucket get the same amount extra, and then the 10 less. And you can see that's 427 added on, and it tracks down as well. That was 3 ways. Talking here, well, 4th way or 5th way. I mean, it's open to suggestion as to how, and we're willing to work different ways to do that. But our financial offer from general operating is 2.9. And if you want to know what it did come out to 2%, when you lower the number of people by it, you kept the same number, Dan. Instead of 3/4, it was just 0.96, so just under a 1%. But that's significant in terms of when you have the denominator a little lower, which is what we calculated on this time for the group.
Can I share one thing?
Yeah.
So it's really important this year because even though we've had TSIA and we have statute, and we talked about this earlier on, like I know you shared earlier, like the teachers we don't like the highly effective and effective. That's statute. We've always had to follow it. But this year was the only year that they came and said TSIA needed to go, and we are not looking at the effectiveness score. So this 710 would be to your members without waiting for evaluation scores to come out. I think that's huge. It's money in people's pocket in the beginning of the year.
so what I want to say before we step out to caucus is that I appreciate that you heard what I said by wanting to make sure that everybody, whether they are 10+ teachers in the classroom, 0 to 9, or people not in the classroom, that everybody has worked to help Pinellas get that A. And I appreciate the fact that you recognize that and you brought back something that recognizes everybody's salary. And with that being said, would it be okay if we go out and caucus? Oh, yes. we actually-
Just so I'm clear, looking at these numbers, is this all considered a raise or are any of these bonuses?
Wonderful question. Yeah. Raise to base salary, recurring. And I should have said that. If you look at the top, I added that in. Initially, we talked about a one-time upfront and wouldn't go forward, recurring as well, which we know is going to chew in a little bit more for us down the line. But it's a can we're willing to kick a little bit. I think it meant a lot. I heard that loud and clear. Can it get into base? Can it be there year after year? Not go after worry or argue, negotiate for the following year. Make sense? Yeah, great question. Thank you. We're gonna
Step out.
step out when you're ready.
Yes.
I
Go
will
that
text
way.
you.
Okay.
For you two to come back. This is a little bit. Okay.
You just said.
Oh, they coordinated in the
Yeah, I
cute?
know. That matches Dave's shirt. That didn't go unnoticed.
You noticed.
It could be one whole outfit. Oh.
That outfit would be a lot.
The payroll uniform.
Yeah.
I think I'd look good on it.
Sure. It's like a chef.
Doing it.
All right, so so we definitely feel much better about these proposals. But I wanted to, before we agree to sign any of these, I wanted to come back and talk about the language that we talked about. If you remember, we made an offer for bereavement, and we definitely talked also about the certifications thing.
Talk or do you want to talk?
Well, I
Pause there.
remember
You did. And I said that those were, I think the words that were soft notes. I mean, if certainly if we're able or willing to sign today on the salary side, we have MOUs ready to both to add similar to what we did last year. One extra year to pay for everybody's certification who applies June 30th, 2027. And that same bereavement clause written the same way for 1 year through the end of June 2027 as well. We prepared an MOU for both, and we have those, and I'm certainly willing to do that. That's an extra act of kindness of what we're doing. We try to come to a point where we come to an agreement on salary.
Okay, and then I'm gonna ask something that I just found out today that goes with, hold on 1 second. In Article 48 of the contract, under differentiated support, it said, in our contract, it says for the 2025-2026 school year, and so long thereafter as deemed appropriate, the following schools will continue to receive additional support: Lakewood Elementary, Campbell Park Elementary, Fairmount Park Elementary, Maximo Elementary, and Melrose Elementary. We know that those are the legacy schools, and we know that those schools, their grades have increased significantly because of the additional support that they're getting.
Yes, on both of that, right, yeah.
And so we wanted to make sure that, are you guys planning on continuing to
I'll
do
speak to
this?
it. I'll speak to it on a broader sense.
Okay.
Right. So what she's referencing, and you'll have to look it up, it's on page 84 and 85 in the contract. We made the commitment. We classified those called, we're tired of some of the terms that were used derogatory towards the school back in the day. As legacy schools, we're going to do everything we can and work with you to continue to provide additional support. That additional support is not just additional teaching and learning support within the classroom. We give a multitude of ISDs to that group to go in and make sure we support not just students from an academic side standpoint, but from a social emotional standpoint, from an attendance standpoint, support the families and social works. They get extra and they need it, honestly. That will continue. The teachers, because they have the students for a longer day, also get compensated at their rate for that continues on, that has not changed. We actually worked on that memo that gets pushed out so we can make sure the principal secretary know how to code that. That will continue. What's not in here, we also can do more for a little bit more. We're actually doing one thing that wasn't listed in here because we don't know how long it will last for. We have 2 other schools, and they don't maybe need more classroom support for the conditions, but due to the curriculum, the way they work, they have an abundance of different elective requirements due to the theme of the school. It's 2 elementary schools. One is Midtown Academy, the other is Sandy Lane. Both of those schools actually have a student day that's extended by a half hour. We continue to compensate the teachers at their hourly rate, the same capacity, because it needs to be. Now, I don't know how long we'll do that for, or maybe not, right? It comes to a point where there's a cost associated with that, but that's been a commitment. They have a cultural arts theme that requires embedded interactive electives, and in the time, you need to extend the core a little bit to ensure there's not a deficit there. And then this year, we're adding in some additional, we're looking at adding some additional planning time in for teachers at 2 of our middle schools, 2 of our middle schools that have the highest turnover. And so that is Azalea Middle School and John Hopkins. So we're adding in up to 5 hours of additional planning time for everyone in the instructional group per month. Not use it all at the end, but use it over the course of the month, because we recognize we want to make sure we continue to strengthen not just their ability to teach in the core, but also their ability to differentiate and provide support for students. And John Hopkins has had some significant turnover in staff, so we want to make sure we add that there, as well as Azalea Middle School. So it adds to the stability and hopefully longevity of staff. That's something we're starting on this year too. But it all aligns to differentiated support, and I came to the recommendation of a superintendent, something we're working on.
Thank you for explaining that, because I know some of those schools truly need the additional support in the middle
Yeah,
schools.
and you know, they do okay, they do even better if they didn't work, start over every year with new people, right?
Right.
Yeah, good point.
So because in the contract it says, and so long thereafter as deemed appropriate, do you feel that we need to do an MOU for the dates on here, or do you think we are okay?
We're
We're gonna
okay.
continue it. We
Yeah.
have no intention of changing that at all. And
We just updated that too. So when we did the book the last time, we updated that language in that particular article.
this article had a lot of transformations on references and other things that was a little bit messy. And we wanted to really clarify our commitment to not just those 5 schools, but to this year, so we're expanding a little bit.
You know, like just so far R2s, whereases, and all those other things.
And they get retention and improvement bonuses as well as the arrow as written there for those 5 schools. So
Yeah, we did have, because I did have a couple phone calls about whether or not that was going to continue, because they made those A grades.
Mhm.
So I told them that we would bring it up today to make
Ah,
sure, so that they,
That's why they're the
Yeah.
legacy schools.
yes,
And,
Yeah.
and to be clear, the school grade is any compensation that comes from the state afterwards for improvements of grades that they redo every year and we never know what's coming, right? We're excited for all schools that improve and sustain their grades, but there may be additional compensation that comes from the state directly for schools.
Mhm.
We wait and see. I mean, if you've been at a school like that, you never know if it's coming. And if it does, you're like, yay, right?
Yeah.
And so, but that's in addition to what we put forward of the potential improvement for the 5 legacy schools. And they do retain their staff, and they do need more support. And their children continue to need more support, and it's working, right? And so we're very proud of that.
Janet wanted to talk about the FSA contributions that we had talked about at GWBS.
So when we talked about FSA, I asked where do we open the discussion for possibly having the district contribution of $75 reallocated to have a higher cap on FSA allowability. I was told to open it in this forum.
Today? Or was it the next? I'm sorry. I think it was talking about at the end of next year's contract. I missed.
So we're still working on insurance.
I
So
understand
one of the aspects of insurance that we've discussed is looking at possibly having some way to continue to incentivize people not being upon the district insurance. We know there's a $75 board contribution. We're not asking for that to be raised. We're asking it to be reallocated in the division that it is. Right now, only $25 plus $75 can be allocated towards an FSA. So we're asking to look at that, to change it to either $50 of that $75 or a consideration of maybe $75 that $75. That's not money that the people who are not taking insurance get in their paychecks. That's money that's a supplemental. So there's zero cost to the district on doing that.
So it does make sense to look at. We'll bring that up. And we're beginning to be WPS. I don't think we hear without the groups because I represent all the unions, but.
Correct. So it's
No, I
open to
feel
answer.
like that's a valid item for school. Absolutely.
And then Dan,
So I think that's not here.
It's different, totally different.
It is.
Yeah. Academics. Yes.
here, as an
So we will,
So just figure out.
okay, I was just gonna go to Janet. So we're gonna take that information, because we do need to bring, because if you remember, it's all the groups have the same. So that is something that we can bring back to EWBS. And something that could be considered. Because it impacts all groups, if that is something that we want to look at, then we can bring that forward, because when we do the consensus there, we can bring that as well. So that is something, like I said, I know it's here, but it impacts the other groups, which is also in their collective bargaining agreements. So we kind of all have to.
Which is why I asked,
Right.
where do you open this, since it's not been looked at
So
in?
it's considered open.
It's open now.
It's open, and we will bring it there and have that conversation.
Doors open.
You can go up to 50.
Is there a question?
Say it again?
In the benefits guide, it says if you do not enroll in a medical plan, you can enroll in the FSA and authorize from $10 to $50 of your board contribution credits to be deposited in your account. So it is.
It is 50 now.
Okay, so then looking at doing the whole 75. So looking at being able to utilize the money.
The 75 in a way of FSA or to credit to something else. Having choice.
Yeah, it's your choice. So what you do with the money has to be utilized within that cafeteria plan.
Okay. We will write that.
So what we were looking at to get an advanced degree supplement, we wanted to, in the past, we had discussed revisiting that periodically, and it has been some time, about 5 to 6 years since we re-examined that. Sorry, need something to drink here. But so we want to look at the advanced degree supplements and either getting a commitment to moving those, perhaps with salaries in the future, in our maybe next contract. But right now, we'd like to see if we could have a little bit of movement on those, because they haven't been moved in 6 years. We realized the constraints monetarily, but in some of the numbers I've run, raising it just like 2,500 to 3,750, and then 5,000. If those numbers work for the masters, the professional, and the doctorate levels.
So I want to address that. So what we will do is, I hear that, and I know you said maybe for future, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to look at other districts too and do some comparison and kind of cost out. So if you want to share what you would like us to look at as far as amount, so for future, because I know that doesn't come to supplement committee, that comes to this particular table with advanced degrees. We can at least look at what those costs would be to increase that amount. I do know right now, currently our advanced degrees are higher than most districts. Yeah, but we'll look at other comparison districts as well.
Charlie, is there anything?
Yeah.
Charlie's the person who actually does the programming on it. Is there anything?
Well, to add to that, I've seen a few districts where they may offer a higher amount, and I don't know that amount, don't quote me on that, but they only offer the supplement for a certain amount of years, whereas we do it throughout your career.
Certainly something to consider.
Yeah.
And I think maybe because we didn't know which committee actually.
Yeah,
That's why
you're
we
right,
haven't
bringing
moved that.
you're right, bringing it here. So that is something for us to review and cost out, but
And
you
what
would
amounts?
email us exactly what you're looking at, but we'll bring those numbers as well.
And so when are you, so I need you to revamp that back so that I hear what you're saying, like, you want us to send it to you?
We wanted, so I didn't type in the amounts in my notes, what you're looking at.
Sure.
So the amounts that you're considering, so that we can look at potential cost outs for the future. But we are also committed to looking at other districts to give you also data that says this is where we are as a district and what we have been paying as part of their salary as well. And ours is every single year, and this is what other districts are paying.
I appreciate that commitment.
Yeah, no,
because
absolutely.
not only makes us competitive with recruitment,
You're
but
absolutely
it
right.
also recognizes teachers for their hard work and their education and all the
Incentivizes them to continue to go to school. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna ask, you guys can say, and we can set out all.
see it.
Yes, please.
Big part of the tree today.
Yeah.
Where you're located at. And go 1, 0, 0, 1.
It's a better one.
Probably, no. Okay.
There you go.
Well,
Done.
we can step out.
You're okay. I just want to make sure you're getting questions back.
So one of the things that we just talked about with the bereavement, whenever we asked you to open it up, we had asked for 3 days. You came back with 1 day. We know that the approximate cost out for that was 16,000. One of the things that Janet was pointing out is we know that the district has shrunk, so we know that there are less employees for the district. And we want to see if you would be willing to go up to 2 days bereavement, if I'm willing to sign on all of the things. Like I'll sign today. Right?
We'll amend it on that, sign on the MOU there, if that's okay, and we'll be putting out the message there. So, well done. Thank you for doing what you can and for being reasonable as we are and taking care of kids and each other in groups. So we appreciate that. So what I would suggest we do, you and I, would be to sign on the MOUs together. We'll adjust from the 1 day to 2 on the bereavement. And 2 for this salary.
Oh, yes.
You can sign right at the bottom there. You would mention another document that might summarize it better.
So let me tell you, the one that we decided that we liked was the one that it was the first one. And so for everybody at home and everybody here that knows what that does is, it does 10+ year classroom teachers get $1,124, 10+ year non-classroom teachers get $1,124, and then 0 to 9 year teachers get $710. And we recognize that this is a raise, and we also recognize that this, that the complication was caused because of the state. And we are very appreciative of the fact that you guys came back and did exactly what I wanted, was to make sure that everybody was recognized, because we know that all teachers in the district, whether they're in the classroom or not in the classroom, are working to make sure that all of Mills County students are successful.
So, how many were on this?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
have it in town.
Oh, I have it, Midtown.
The
Yeah.
two, they've been, yeah, they've been that for a long time. Yes, yeah. It's not, yeah.
Mhm. Midtown, thank you.
I would do it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the contract that's on the website, the PDF document, says that the risk management limit on some donations is like the $25.
Did you do the risk version on the website or?
And the risk management link that he read from our practice, David read earlier said that risk management says. So what is it?
Separate.
Okay. Yeah, we looked into it and the contract was in the match, so what the risk management is.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna make any closing remarks.
Okay.
Walk in the big building again. Walk in the
You
big
still
building.
have this on, if you want it off.
Yes.